Okay, so good evening to all the shareholders and investors in the old Woollen Mill project. Thank you for joining us once again for what is the first, I'll say once again, you've probably attended project webinars with Susie, but this is the first shareholder webinar we've done. So I know Susie's looking forward to it. So let me first of all formally introduce Susie, who you all know, but welcome you back once again, Susie, to a webinar. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. Very interesting weather we're having at the moment, isn't it? So enjoying sunshine followed by rain. Lovely Devon.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think it's been, we got our rain in Northern Ireland for the first time in about 2.5 weeks almost, it feels like. So we had a deluge earlier. So let me also welcome Dal Ray. Good evening, Dal. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
And let me introduce Dal to all the shareholder investors. Dal is the new start within Leo crowdfunding. Absolutely delighted to get him on board. Comes with a really good track record, and he will be in charge of all things investor relations. So official title of investor portfolio manager. So all queries about projects, any queries about funds transferring, investor updates, that will all be on Dal's shoulders. So Dal, great you could join us tonight and meet some of the investors virtually.
Pleasure.
And understand more of this project.
Indeed.
Great. And so Dal's looking after the Q&A tonight. So if anyone's any questions, we don't use a chat box. Put your questions into the Q&A, and we can deal with them then. If we run out of time, we of course will forward them on afterwards. So this is recorded. It's a private webinar only for shareholders of the SPV that Susie started for this old Woollen Mill project, and we will of course send the recording to all the shareholders. Now, real value tonight is going to be in the learn and own. And Susie, I know right from the start, Susie, you wanted this project to be an opportunity for investors to understand and see the process of a planning uplift gain. And I know that was a passion you had.
Yes, very much so. So I look forward to the questions, because that's the opportunity for people to ask me things that they want to know. And hopefully the brain will be functioning well enough tonight to answer them.
I've no doubt in that whatsoever. You'll have the information at the tip of your tongue. So let me just take 20 seconds to remind everyone, this project was a planning uplift project down in Devon. Our platform successfully raised 111,000 from 57 different investors. That was the highest number of investors that we had into a single project. And I think that demonstrated the desire of people to, one, obviously back Susie and her track record, but also learn and understand more about planning uplift. And this is certainly a nice sort of planning uplift project that certainly provides lots of learning experiences. So the project is projected to return 50% per annum. That is what the offer was initially. So Susie, high level in terms of the actual project status, where are we in terms of the three things on the screen?
We are 44% through my Gantt chart at the moment, according to the report I ran earlier. We are on track and we are on budget, which is nice, always nice.
Okay, so that's a nice summary. 44% completion, on track, on budget. That's a good starting place for tonight. So getting into level of detail, and of course, when it comes to planning uplift, there's not really a whole bunch of new photographs to show because nothing's really going to change on site. So the video is going to play in the background for those that didn't see it, which just takes you around the site. But Susie, feel free to work away. The mic's yours. Work down your sort of key updates that you want to give the shareholders.
I think the most exciting development that we will have shortly will be the 3D imaging. So that'll take this video that we're looking at now and superimpose onto it where all the houses go and what they are. I'm trying to get the view that we're just looking at put in the background of the self-build plots at the moment. So yeah, starting with the most important bit, the planning application went in on time because we had a deadline with the option agreement that it had to be submitted by a certain date. We did it. Then the planning officer came back saying, I want these additional reports right now, which were ones that we were in the process of getting completed. But usually they'll give you an idea of whether they like your layout before they ask for them. But this time it was, no, we want them now. So we've got those done. They will be lodged with her this week. So those are the additional reports. The other additional report, which I mentioned in my last update, was the historical report. There's always a risk if you take on somebody else's site, particularly a listed site, that you can become responsible for what has happened before. So although any damage done to the listed buildings is classed as criminal, and the criminal issue is to the people who physically did it, the cost of repair falls on the owner of the site. So if I purchase the site, I could then get the bill to reinstate something that they think should be reinstated. There was already planning in place to demolish all of the old warehouses because they were dangerous. But they wanted particular reports done before these were demolished, and those reports weren't done. So we've taken it upon ourselves to do those reports now, so that there is no further need, and in essence it's compliant with its previous permission. On that basis, A, they will be a lot happier to deal with our application, and B, I'm protecting myself and the company from any potential issue in the future where they would come back and say, oh no, we want you to rebuild them. It's very, very unlikely, but I would rather play it safe. So hence the additional reports. We're still working on the design of all of the sustainability, whether or not we can get enough power from the hydro plant to run houses, or whether that will just be the electric cars. But again, that's all very important and very interesting, but it's subsequent to the actual planning. We've got our website live. There's a lot more to go in it, particularly the photographs and all sorts. But again, as we keep saying, it's very difficult to put photographs in of just a barren site at the moment. But we've also got the 3D generation very nearly finished. When I looked at it last week, it had a beautiful panorama of the Manhattan skyline all around the site. And I was saying, oh, imagine that would be worth an absolute fortune if we had that. We had our development surrounded by Manhattan. So what we're doing is we're trying to put the actual views from the site in so that it really is a realistic interpretation of what it will all look like. We're also putting the old buildings. We've had to do a drone survey of the old buildings to get a good enough set of pictures to put into the 3D. But it's really exciting. We've got, one of the concerns was that with a waterway running through the site as we've got, that if somebody fell in it, how would we get them out? So we've designed in a set of steps running down to the water as a seating area. And that looks fantastic on the 3D. That's really, I did pass the comment though that I could see cars driving into it, and that could be a little bit iffy, but everybody very sarcastically told me, no, we will have a way to stop them, Susie.
That's really good. So someone will be creative on that. Remind me the benefit of the shareholders again, the website. Who is that geared to, and what content will be on that website?
This is where the website and the 3D run together, because they perform two functions. The 3D is our public consultation. So the aim is that will be sitting on our website. So anybody who is interested in what we're doing or sees the planning application and wants to know, they can go to the website and look at the 3D. So they'll see exactly what we're doing. And that also is our marketing, because the houses are physically there. We've also got a members only area that we're looking to open up to our investors so that they can see a little bit more. This is something that David and I are talking about, aren't we, David?
Yeah, so when you say the investors, obviously the shareholders, so those on the call, to those on the this update shareholding webinar tonight, they may be giving a login password, and that lets them access like the admin section, shall we call it, of the website, and lets them be more up to date and more informed and actually follow along the process from the admin section, which I think is very beneficial.
Yeah, so that's one of the things we're building at the moment. What we've done is we've released the 3D to the ward members and the local council. So not the planning authority, but the town council. So they can have a look at it now while we can still change the application if there's something they really hate. We've done something a little bit controversial. which is to put a row of houses between the mill and the river. I'm still to be convinced that I really like them. So therefore, I've put it out to the public to see whether the town people like them. My architect loves them because he's designed them, and the listed buildings officer liked them because or liked the idea because he didn't want to see what was it? It was paraphernalia of households behind the mill buildings. In other words, gardens, sheds, toys. And this view that's just coming into shot now, no, not that one, that's the other building. So around the other side, when people walk down the Tarka Trail, they can see the mill building. And he was very bothered about having gardens and sheds and all sorts there. So we said, well, okay, if we build a row of houses, you can still see the mill behind them, but you won't see, because the gardens are back to back, you won't see that. Oh yes, that's a good idea. And he had a real emphasis upon seeing the view through into the courtyard from the river. So we've done a landscaping design to enhance the effectively a triangle that drives you through into that courtyard. But the main emphasis of the views of the building are from the waterway on the other side, so the ones associated with the mill itself.
Okay. Now you said something there, Susie, I think is actually very, very important. You're right from the word go. One of the first couple of times I spoke to you, you expressed your desire that you engage with the local population. You saw this very much as working with the local community to deliver, you know, the right type of housing that fitted with the area. How important, from a lessons learned point of view, like how important in your experience in dealing with planning uplift projects is getting the local community on side?
I think extremely, and not just for the planning. Obviously, anybody local can object to your planning application, and if there are a certain number of objections, it automatically has to go to committee. So the more people on your side, the better. But even further on from that, if a developer is looking to buy your site once you've got the value onto it, if they know that all the neighbours hated what you wanted to build, they know they'll have a really difficult job building it, that they will be awkward, and they'll put all sorts of obstacles in their way. So if the community are engaged on what you're trying to do from the word go, then it actually enhances the value of your site by its saleability and buildability.
Okay.
So I think, as I say, double whammy there.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, Dal, over to you for any questions that have come in from any of the shareholders.
Yeah, sure. So a few questions we've got here. So hi, Susie. What were the additional reports requested by the planning officer?
The one was the historical one that I mentioned before.
Yeah.
Another one was the drainage design. Now, the drainage design we would do anyway, but normally not right up front before they'd actually said, yes, we like the layout. Even down to percolation testing. So we'd done all of that, it was there. So we said, well, there you go, it's here. I'm trying to think what else there was. Because we had already done the reports, we just hadn't submitted them in with the planning application.
You've named 3 there, so I think in the next update, you know, if there are additional ones, then you can add those into the additional ones. So
there was something strange.
Any other ones then, Dal? I'll let you run through the other questions that are there.
Yeah, can you provide the website hyperlink, assuming it's already live?
I will. What I will do is send that out to David and get David to issue that out.
Okay.
Yeah, it is live, but I've had a few issues actually logging onto it myself. So. Okay.
Yeah. So let's test it. Make sure it's ready to go, and then either we can do it through when we send the recording out, or the next monthly update can be done. And we can also add it to the forums, so people can access it from the, well, in fact, yeah, that's okay. Forums can do, because you still need an admin section to get into the private bit, which is fine. So yeah, that's fine. We'll get that out.
I have put it on the company LinkedIn page, but for some reason it's not showing. So
okay, no, that's fine. Okay, Dal, any further questions?
Yeah, so what about flood risks for the proposed row of houses near the river?
We did all of that in advance. All of the flood risk analysis was the very first thing we did before we designed anything. That we had an enhanced topographical survey which delayed us, which was in that first update, to make sure that everything we needed to do in that flood risk was done properly before we designed. We did that and the ecology before we even thought about working out where the houses could go. So what we've got is the row of houses, a road, and then the bund, which is the flood defence.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments there, Dal?
David, if you can just have a look at the comment, I think just on below.
Yeah.
And you
So
might
your mum, in the interest of full disclosure, your mum has said that you it must be to do with the units you talked about. That you didn't like them, but your mum definitely does like them. So
public consultation.
Yeah, that's it. So that must be a split household then. So your mum's a very experienced developer in her own right. So I'll leave you two to discuss that yourselves over a cup of tea as to whether you like them or not.
Yeah, they are actually, they're beautiful houses, and they are the ones that have the capacity for the extra suite on the ground floor. In all of my talks previously, I've talked about how important it is to me to have an accessible suite, which could either be disability access for a member of the family who is less able, or a home office, or a workshop, or a gym, or a cinema room. So they've got, those particular houses have got a double garage, which goes, it's not double that way, it's double that way. So double in a line. Okay. So the back half of it could very easily come away from being garage, and they'd still have a garage at the front. Yeah. So they are good houses.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's a matter of like a lot of things, you get different opinions on things. So you mentioned earlier, just heading towards the last 4 or 5 minutes here now of this update. So you mentioned earlier the 44% completed. So you want to highlight anything from this graph?
Well, we're in essence going into the boring bit now, aren't we? We've done everything. All the reports are done. The council have all the reports. They just have to look at it, do their part of the public consultation and see what they think. So we have, although it says 44%, we have done what we need to do. It is there, done, dusted, it's in. And now we wait and see what they think. So it's this now.
Yeah, so finance rates 100%, the reports 100%, redesign 100% of the site, 3D plan, website 100%, planning submitted 100%, and now you're into the validation of the application, public consultation, marketing, and then on into what follows. So as you said at the start, you're absolutely on track in terms of where we are. So just in terms of wrapping up then, we talked about lessons learned. So what would, you're obviously experienced developer, experienced in planning uplift projects. What are some of the key lessons learned and pain points that you have experienced on this project?
I think I would say, even when you think you know how the system works, they can still throw a sideways shot at you, like they did, saying they wanted the reports up front, when we're accustomed to them saying, well, hang on a minute, we don't quite like your layout, could you move something before you put all of the drainage design, etc. Normally I don't like planning conditions. I have a real thing about not having planning conditions, because to me they are more delay and they lessen the value of the site. So a lot of people don't bother putting all of these things in up front. They just get the planners to condition them, and they're either a pre-commencement condition, i.e. you have to do them before you're allowed to start building, or they're a pre-occupation condition, so you have to do them before the houses can be lived in. I don't mind the pre-occupation so much, but pre-commencement takes away your value, because it is not, you can't start to build, therefore your site isn't build ready, therefore doesn't have the value. So we'd already done all of the reports they wanted. We were just holding off in case they wanted some tweaks. And I've never had them come back up front and say, we want these in up front. This is new. So like I say, even when you've done it before multiple times and you think you know how it all works, they can still throw you a bit of a sideways shot.
Yeah. And do you have any sense, Susie, of why that is? Why have they either changed that process, or why on this particular project did they ask the reports up front? Have you any sense of that?
To be honest, I think it was a delaying tactic so that they didn't have to validate it. Because once they validate it, the clock starts ticking for them. And I think that they didn't realize we'd already done them, so we could just put them in. And they thought, well, that'll give us 6 to 8 weeks while they do all that work. But we'd already done it. So
okay.
It's a hard thing to say, because in a way I am criticizing the planning authority, but that does seem to be the way they're working. They are so understaffed and overworked all over the country. I seem to be hearing this more and more often.
Yeah, okay. And then you've already mentioned the historical report, obviously a study that was required. And just to finish off then, the 3D technology versus CGIs. In the update you talked about, you normally work with CGIs, but when you saw the 3D technology, it just opened your mind. So just explain that to the shareholders.
Well, I upset my architect. Bless him. My architect's taken on a new chap who, my architect is Passive House accredited, but he didn't really know as much about active houses. So he hired a new guy who knows his active houses. He was working really hard on all the designs and making it absolutely great. Sent me the pictures. And I looked at it and I said, that's horrible. And I sent him an email saying, to me, that looks like the Taylor Wimpey development in Launceston. It's nasty. So my architect sent me a message back saying, I think you'd better come in the office on Monday and we'll sort this out. So, okay. So I trolled into the office on Monday and they ran the 3D for me. I said, oh, they're lovely, actually, aren't they? At which point poor Niall breathed a sigh of relief, and he said he'd actually Googled the Taylor Wimpey site in Launceston and said, oh yeah, he could see my point. So,
yeah, very good.
So
the lesson,
it's the difference in a flat image. Yeah, a flat image that was fairly detailed, a fairly good image, compared to, in essence, standing there in the street with cars and trees and children and people walking and looking at the house. I was amazed. They are worlds apart. So I think when you then put that into your public consultation, which is what we're doing through the website, then people won't feel the same as me. Oh, that's horrible. That looks like a normal bog standard development. They can look at, oh, wow, that's pretty.
Yeah.
We've even got the water flowing through. Yeah. That's
really, really good feedback. Again, even just dealing with the architect and the presentation and the difference between CGIs and 3D, etc. It just shows you, the world's moving on from sketches and technology enhances how projects like this can be brought to life. I think that's the big takeaway. And it can be complicated. This is a big site. You have a lot of old buildings and it can be hard to visualize what the end site will look like.
That's what it was the planners asked for.
3D brings it alive. 3D brings it alive.
Yeah, that was the extra bit the planners asked for. They wanted to see what it would look like in its setting. That was what it was, that which is why we've done the drone survey, and I had already included that we would be giving them the CGI, but obviously they wanted that up front before they validated it. Now that's strange. That was the one that was a particularly strange request, because they don't usually get that sort of thing. They usually get a set of flat plans. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Well, listen, Susie, thank you very much for that. I think that's been really useful to the shareholders. As I say, being the first sort of live webinar, really good number on tonight, wanting to, I suppose, get an update, which is understandable. So you continue to provide really detailed updates. I think Tony Allner, our Chief Operating Officer, and Brenda were talking the other day, and they were saying, like, if you could, you'd probably do an update every day, never mind every month, because you're keen to get the information out, to the shareholders. So we're having to hold you back a little bit and say, well, keep that for the update, and we'll do a monthly update. So no doubt the shareholders will be pleased with your next one that's coming in terms of the update. So listen, no further questions, Dal. I think that's all the questions answered, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Well,
potentially
listen,
watch the press. Watch the press, because we may be going in the press.
Okay, now that is an interesting one. That is definitely an interesting one. So yeah, we'll hold that. We'll keep that for the next update. So listen, Susie, thank you very much for joining us. Dal, thank you for being here once again, and to all the shareholders. We'll get this recording out to you in the next couple of days. Keep tuned into the forums So when you go into the forum, you'll get any updates, and as shareholders, you can have conversations about the project on the forum. But certainly whenever we get the back end of the website set up as well, you can access that. So lots happening, really good progress, Susie, so far. And yeah, wish you every success as you keep moving forward to a successful conclusion.
Fingers crossed.
That'll do. Okay, everyone, thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Good luck.